This video is about something that I think we really need to know. We need to know about this and take it seriously. And I hope that you're going to watch this all the way to the end and share it with someone. I read about a study. It's by a man named J.D. Unwin. I read this a couple years ago in a book by an author named Noel Mehring. And since then, I've come across a couple of other references to Unwin's study. But I wish this was being shared more widely. The results of the study were initially published in a book by Unwin titled Sex and Culture. And there's a lot about the study and the details of it that we could talk about, but I want to try to make this fairly simple, and I want to try to make it brief and understandable. And also the conclusion of the study really is the important story here, and that's what I want to present to you. It's very important. Unwin was a social anthropologist at Oxford. So he's got, some credentials. And his study involved, get this now, 86 societies and civilizations. 86, not a dozen, not a couple dozen, 86. So this is pretty far-reaching. Unwin's studies found that, and this is from Noel's book, here's how she put it, the single most influential factor in determining the flourishing of a society was whether prenuptial, you could say premarital, chastity was a strict social norm or not. End of quote. Are you getting this? In other words, if sexual morality was the social norm, this study found that was the factor in a society thriving. This was not a religious study by, theologians and pastors. The scientific field that he was working in is anthropology. You could put it this way. Here, come at it from a different angle. Here's what he found. As societies become more prosperous, they also tend to become increasingly sexually promiscuous. That's just kind of what happens. They become more immoral sexually. And remember, Unwin studied many societies and civilizations. This wasn't like 4 or 5 groups that he looked at. And when sexual promiscuity increased, this is what the study showed, within 3 generations. These are the results. Within 3 generations, the society collapsed. Here's another quote from Noel's book regarding this study. When total sexual liberty is embraced, the society is characterized by people who have little interest in much else other than their own wants and needs. Does that sound familiar? Still quoting here. At this level, the culture is usually conquered or taken over by another culture with greater social energy. End of quote. 3 generations before the society collapses. Now, a generation is often considered to be about 25 or 30 years. So think about this. Let's bring it home a little bit here. The sexual revolution in the United States began, like some would say, like the mid-1960s, late 1960s. So we would be coming to the end of the 2nd generation about now, and kind of starting the 3rd generation. Now, I'm not a prophet, and this is not prophecy. I do not know the future. You know that already. I don't. Really, all I'm doing at this point is I'm providing information based on academic research involving many, many societies and civilizations. But I am saying this. I am saying this is really important to know. And for me to have information like this and not share it, I just feel like that would be irresponsible. In fact, I wish people with much larger platforms than me, people with way more reach than I have, would be sharing this. This needs to be known. You say, well, what should we do, Dan? Repent. Repent. Turn to God. As a society, our culture has basically, since the late 60s or so, we've basically said this: do whatever you want to do. Do what makes you feel good. Right? Hey, if it's two consenting adults, have at it. Do whatever you want to do. That's not what God says. As individuals, it always starts with each individual heart. But as societies too, as individuals and as a society, we need to repent and turn back to God. That's the only way I know how to say it. And I know there's probably people listening to this who will say, "Oh, for crying out loud, what an old-fashioned, Bible-thumping, sky is falling, cranky, crotchety, ancient bag of hot air this guy is." And to that, I would reply, I'm telling you something based on scores of societies that were studied. What are you basing your position on? By the way, if you think we're fundamentally better or stronger than those other societies that have failed, boy, talk about being misled. I'm just passing along right now information that I really think needs to be known. 3 generations.